Yeah, good morning, everybody. So, as most of you know, every conference, or workshop, I give an update to Canasta because this is a constantly evolving product that is used by many members of the community. So, wanted to start this one off by welcoming all of the new folks who've been attending who are attending this conference series / workshop series for the first time. And I'll give an intro to very quick intro to what Canasta is, and then for the rest of us, just some updates that we've had since November when we met in Vienna. So Canasta is an all-in-one MediaWiki package. It's a Docker-based stack powering MediaWiki is it now actually 200 plus extensions? Yeah, about 150 to 200 extensions that are bundled in with it. It also contains what are called data structures and packages ready for install, which if you have like a blank wiki, it's really nice for being able to just start with some pre-built templates so you can just build out your wiki without having to overcome the quote-unquote blank page problem by yourself. And it lets you set up fully featured MediaWiki within 15 minutes. If you want proof of that, you can check out the recording from the 2022 conference in Houston, where I did that live in person. So the point of Canasta is to reduce the technical administrative complexity. You can bring down your setup time from 5 hours to 15 minutes. And this was a project that was co-founded by WikiWorks, WikiTech, and MyWikis. Canasta is used by not only the founders, but also by a variety of, large and small organizations. The bee and sunflower logo is Wiki Apiary. I wanted to go over the components of Canasta real quick for folks who are new to it. So we've built Canasta in a way such that it's extensible, such that you can use as much or little of it as you want. At the bottom is what we now call the base layer. It's the tech stack. It includes what you need to run MediaWiki. So the Canasta image itself is Apache, Debian, PHP, MediaWiki. Then on top of those things, beside them would include like MySQL, Elasticsearch, Caddy, Varnish. On top of that, then, is our extensive extension and skin collection. On top of that are the starter pages and data structures. And then we have a CLI available for easy maintenance of your stack and things like that. Canasta typically runs in Docker Compose. I'll explain more about Kubernetes at the end of the talk. But basically with the CLI, you don't have to do raw Docker Compose commands. You can just use the CLI and it'll spin things up. And I have a farm over there. This is new because as of either last year or the year before, time flies quickly, I think maybe the year before, right? We now have farm support, which means Canasta doesn't just power one wiki. You can have multiple wikis on different domains or different subdomains all running on a same Canasta instance, which is super powerful. So you could technically make a wiki host on it too, but don't. Just use MyWikis. Anyway, just kidding. So some statistics. We've had over 90,000 downloads of the image. And I guess we have 54 open tasks now called issues on GitHub. Most of them are actually just feature requests and requests to add extensions, but we do have as you can see, we're an active community. We have our work cut out for us. So yeah, I'll give some routine updates next. So what have we done since November 2024? In December of last year, MediaWiki 1.43, the latest LTS version, was released. That happens once every 2 years. The Canasta support is now in beta, and by beta we mean you can use it. There might be a few bugs to squash, but it's pretty much ready to go. So you can help us do pest control if you'd like. And it's using PHP 8.1 now. And the reason why we've chosen that is because we had a debate over this, or not a debate, a discussion. We decided that 8.3 would be too new for some extensions. And so for Canasta, we have to not only consider MediaWiki itself, but also the extensions that run on it. And when we have 150 different extensions on it, we have to consider the general compatibility of all of them. So I think the Wikimedia Foundation supports PHP 8.1 very well for 1.43, so that's why we made this decision. And then most of the extensions that we have should be compatible now with Canasta. I think there was like an issue with the AWS extension used for S3 storage for private installations. Not quite sure if it's completely resolved, but just a small blocker if anyone does use that. And the way to try it is we have a Canasta underscore 1.43 image that you can download from GHCR. Some technical changes that we have now put in place is I had an idea in October 2022 to separate the Canasta image into two, because usually it includes like the extensions and skins. But I realized that there were legitimate use cases for not including those extensions and skins, and we finally had the time and consensus to do that earlier this year. So we split the base image, which is the part I was talking about, MediaWiki, that kind of stuff, from the extension and skins on top of it. Oh yes, of course, I have that over there as well. So the base is like what's absolutely essential for running MediaWiki. Like if you don't have all these components, you're not running MediaWiki. Whereas the main image is all the nice stuff on top of it. So if you're buying an ice cream sundae, you need the ice cream, but not necessarily the sundae. So the main image is basically a full ice cream sundae. So we hope that you like banana splits. Yeah. All right. And so what if you don't like our ice cream sundae? Well, that's really unfortunate, but you can make your own. So we'll give you your ice cream, and we'll let you create your own and put your own sprinkles on top of it. Those are called derivative images. And you use Docker's image inheritance system by simply saying, we're going to inherit from the Canasta base image, and then we're going to do a lot of our own edits to it. These are the steps. It's that simple. We've designed the schemas for Canasta such that if you make your changes within these confines, we will guarantee that your Canasta will function version to version. And it won't be overridden by our changes. The benefits of using the Canasta base image are you get that clean separation of concerns between the lower and upper levels, so that you don't have to worry about messing around with a Canasta set of extensions and skins. You get the best of both worlds. It's the best Dockerized MediaWiki out there. I'm very biased, but it's true. You also get the customizability that Canasta by design offers. The base image is much more efficient and slim compared to the main image in terms of if you're trying to customize things and you don't want the additional extensions. I would say for most people, if you're using Canasta and you don't have like a specific go-to, don't use the base image alone. You should still be using the main image. But for developers, you really want to try using this if possible. An example of who's using a base image, we already have an example, OpenCSP, as Charlie announced yesterday. So they use the base image, but their OpenCSP stack uses extensions that they've custom picked, and they run scripts during both the image building process and upon the container startup process. Canasta supports like basically hooks for both of those, and that derivative image then just copies from the base image, and you get a fully functioning OpenCSP stack. It's been a mutual symbiotic relationship here. We get to say that we power OpenCSP, and they get a fully functional OpenCSP platform, and they get to just focus on their layer while being able to use our layer for powering the magic. So another thing, and this builds off of what your own talk yesterday about recommended revisions was, we've started moving away from the raw Docker file declarations where we would install extensions and skins And now we are using YAML configurations to be able to install extensions and skins based on what's defined in the YAML. This is really important because in the past, we just had like 200 lines of copy this from Wikimedia Git and unzip it, blah, blah, blah. And that's a pain. It's also very prone to bugs or to mistakes. And for people who are extending Canasta as well, it's also a pain for them. So the YAML configuration has a lot of different attributes that you can apply to it. It lets you download from various sources. It makes it easy for you to say these are the extensions I want. And if for some reason you want to commit sacrilege and say we don't want the Canasta set of extensions, you can use this YAML format as well to do your own. I'll show you more about that in a few slides. So we've started to introduce these new concepts called, that's a typo, it's not includes and removes, it should be inherits and removes, or no, includes and removes? No, inherits. Inherits, okay, yeah, inherits and removes. So inherits is basically kind of like Docker's own from base image declaration. It's saying, you can just use this file, it already has all this stuff, you don't have to copy paste. And then you can just list the stuff that you want to add to it right below. Removes is the opposite. You say, I have all this stuff, but then I want to remove the following things from it. And yeah, you can inherit from both either GitHub raw content, or a text file somewhere, or you can do it from a wiki page if you follow the schematic that Yaron introduced yesterday in his talk. With this also allows us to add better composer support. Now that we have the schema, we can say, okay, you don't have to do your raw git pulls or whatever. You can just define that this is the extension that you want, specify the composer name and composer version. It'll download that specific composer package for you and install it. You don't have to worry anymore about writing that code yourself. You're also able to add additional steps, such as composer update, so that you can tell it exactly what to do to be able to set it up correctly. And the best part is, most people don't even have to think about this because it's already included as a default config. But if you wanted to add your own, you can just follow the examples that we have in our code base. We've also finally worked on adding email support in Canasta, beginning with 1.43. This was implemented with postfix, so now it's included in the Canasta base image. A disclaimer though, for those who are sending lots and lots of email, you probably want to use something different, not because this is a poor implementation or whatever, but because for a small wiki, a postfix server is a godsend. For a larger wiki, you should really be using something like SES. So just keep that in mind. If you don't want to use the postfix, not a problem. It'll just kind of be dormant like your appendix. We've had some successes now with all these changes. I think for several talks, several State of Canastas in a row, we have, we've been thinking about how do we improve composer stuff, how do we improve extensions, and how do we improve emailing. So we've had all these successes now. Big props to the open source contributors who made this possible, especially WikiWorks for dedicating their engineering resources to it as well. With regards to composer support, that lets us have fewer patches of code. And as I said before, Canasta's patches to third-party code, like for core MediaWiki code or extension code to make it work on Canasta, they're like nicotine patches. We don't want to use them, but if we have to use them, we use them, and it helps. So thankfully, we're using fewer nicotine pouches. We are just about to be off of our tobacco dependence. So, yeah. Okay, so what's next for Canasta? This is the exciting part. This part's not that exciting. Anti-spam. We will probably work on adding Anubis as an optional integration for public wikis. It would sit between the caddy and varnish layers. The caddy layer is the TLS termination proxy, which is what you're user will first hit when requesting Canasta. It says, hi, this is the TLS certificate. I'm real HTTPS. I'm not like that guy who vibe coded a website and didn't even have HTTPS. We have that. Varnish is the layer currently beneath that, which is the first pass cache. Super important for public websites, but the issue is you really don't want people hitting your Varnish cache unless they are real and not spam bots. So that's where Anubis would probably sit between. And so this probably wouldn't be part of the default Canasta implementation because there are a lot of private wikis that would not need Anubis. If anything, it would probably just make things slower for them. But for public wikis, I think this would be a huge godsend. So I'm hoping that we can have some efforts in the community to add Anubis to Canasta. The second thing I want to talk about is Kubernetes. So this has been kind of the, what's it called? I don't know the idiom, like a dark. Yeah, redhead stepchild, unfortunately. No offense to gingers. The redhead stepchild of Canasta, unfortunately, because our status quo has been the Docker Compose stack. When we first started Canasta, the thing is, we had a lot to do. And quite honestly, we just had to focus on one thing and make it good. And that one thing was Docker Compose. We started small. Because if you can't build a Docker Compose stack, you can't really build a Kubernetes stack. So we've made Docker Compose our reference implementation, but now there's more and more demand for Canasta to be used on a bigger scale across multiple, you have to not only be able to scale up, but also scale out. So the only way to scale out reasonably is through Kubernetes. We have a Kubernetes stack repo, but its last major update was in 2022. It doesn't have a built-in Elasticsearch container yet, so you really can't use it, unfortunately. It is compatible with the CLI, but you just wouldn't get Elasticsearch, which would be really sad. There are private implementations out there using Kubernetes. So if you're wondering, I think we have Canasta Kubernetes, what are they saying? It just means that you have your own implementation specific to your infrastructure. I know a few examples out there, but we want to make this like a unified and cohesive open source implementation that should be general purpose enough for everyone to use. So now there are going to be efforts to revive the Kubernetes stack. We have some funding to do so for some consulting clients, and it'll be for multiple interested parties that we'll implement this for. And as I said, you have true scale-out benefits with multiple pods in Kubernetes. It's also going to be cloud agnostic, so Docker Compose, you pretty much can run it on one big VM, but you don't really actually get the benefits of cloud, which means you can scale out immediately. With Kubernetes, that will finally be a reality. So our to-do list is to update our Kubernetes manifests. Let me put it this way. If you hate vibe coding with a passion, please sign up so that you can stem the tide. Otherwise, we may or may not decide to use vibe coding in the implementation, and it may or may not work well. So yeah, just an FYI. But then our next step is to ensure support for multiple web app pods being able to run and not have race conditions. One of the things that's important about the Canasta base layer is that it also contains basically a cron job that continuously runs the what's called run job script in the background. We might not necessarily want that to be running on every single pod because we don't want to create race conditions, but we will probably work on that and see what we can do. So please join the effort if you can. The upgrade schedule is the next thing I want to talk about for Canasta. So the goal is to release, sorry, that was the goal. But the Canasta for 1.39 deprecation timeline, though, is, I think, still to be determined. I don't think we've had any active development for it. So all the features I talked to you about, like email support and the YAML stuff, that's for 1.43. And then we will probably deprecate the 1.39 support by the end of the year. But how we can help Canasta improve, I really want to emphasize this because this is a topic that comes up time and time again at our conferences / workshops. The best way for us to get Canasta to be better, or even to be the best Docker solution out there, is for users of Canasta to evaluate it first, see if it suits your needs, make the switch second, and then third, do their part to help improve. Because that's how we were able to build Canasta in the beginning. WikiWorks, WikiTech, and MediaWiki supported engineering efforts as an investment to make it work. And now we just want to keep that flow going. And the benefits of that, you're going to be able to reduce a lot of duplicated engineering work. You'll get the best implementation of the community because it's open source. And we can talk about things and just, improvements. You're getting the ideas of seasoned experts in the community. And then hopefully you can repurpose time saved to your other life obligations, whether that's vibe coding, whether that's putting out more fires at your organization, whether that's taking someone out to dinner. I don't know, but the point is with Canasta, you'll be able to do all of that. Cool. So for more information, that's our GitHub, and our official website is canasta.wiki. And I guess we will hold a Q&A session for the rest of the time. Let's see, how much? We have 5 minutes. Okay. Yes, Mark, hook 'em horns. That's what my alma mater's sign is.
I'm coming up here, so.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, okay.
So what I became aware of the shellbox stuff that is in MediaWiki for moving processes off of the main compute and onto other compute nodes. That seems like you could use that in Canasta. Have you done any work with that?
This is the first time I'm hearing of that, but that sounds awesome. I would love to do that. And that would run as a sidecar Docker instance, I presume, in Canasta. That has been a goal of ours for years, that it's one of those ideas I just had, it's like when a genius passes away and then you go into their what do you call it? Their workshop or whatever, and you dig through their papers while you're looking for the will to see if you've gotten any inheritance money, and you're like.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
No. I'm saying if you did that with mine, you would find that idea somewhere. So you want my money.
I think it's an exciting thing. We should definitely use that in mind.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark, for sharing that. Any other questions? I don't have that much money, so don't try to. Yes.
Can you re-describe what Mark's suggestion was?
Okay, Rich's request is to re-describe what Mark's suggestion was. So I mentioned about the, if you see the last sub-bullet, ensure support for multiple web app pods does not have race conditions. Right now, if you run one Canasta pod, you can serve web app stuff, right? And for the most part, if you were to scale out and have multiple pods, you would just have the user talk to, or they would hit one of the pods randomly, and that pod would be able to serve the content. They all can talk to the database. You can prevent race conditions because the database has locks on it, blah, blah, blah. But, excuse me, there is one major aspect of the Canasta container that would run into race conditions, which is the maintenance script, right? Or the run jobs.php. You only really want that to run ideally with one thing, right? You don't really want multiple jobs to run at the same time. I mean, I'm not completely sure on this, but at least you probably just ideally want that to even be running on a separate sidecar container anyway, because you can isolate the resources that you're using to serve web traffic, separate that from what you're using to run these jobs, right? And in a very complex environment, you could ideally say, let's run these jobs during low traffic, and then during high traffic, let's repurpose that compute power to serving web traffic. Just things like that.
Provide isolation for security.
Oh yes, and Cindy mentioned that you can also provide isolation for security reasons, which is always good. And Mark says something too?
I think that the isolation is mostly, isolation and reservation of compute power is what Wikimedia is using the shellbox for.
And Mark is mentioning that the reservation and isolation of compute capacity is also what the Wikimedia Foundation is using the Shellbox for. And so great minds think alike. So Canasta will certainly be working on that. But as far as I know, that's not something that the official, or sorry, quote unquote, official MediaWiki Docker image has support for. I would be very shocked because it's by definition just one image, so it can't have multiple. But the benefit of Canasta is that there's a whole stack ecosystem that we have. So we would just be able to say, download our stack or use our CLI, and then one of the sidecar containers would be the quote-unquote Shellbox. I hope that makes sense. If that went over your head, don't worry about it. If that makes sense to you, great, you should be happy. Cool. Any other questions? Anything from online, by the way? No? Okay, all right. Well, yeah, that means I've done my job, right? But no, in all seriousness, I know that I give this talk, I've been giving this State of Canasta update every conference since spring 2022. So I think most people have had their questions answered. So yeah, let me know if anyone has any questions though about Canasta. I'm always happy to talk about it, to help set it up, things like that. Thank you.